Claudia. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
How's everybody doing?
Well,
Good, good.
it's cold.
It's cold? Okay, we're going to try to warm you up a little bit. Welcome to this afternoon's panel. Verbose, a little. Philly Social Justice Hackathon.
Alliteration.
Catalyzing cross-disciplinary problem solving and creative collaboration in legal ed. We have an all-star panel. Myself, my name is Miguel. Willis, I didn't mean it that way. Myself, my name is Miguel. Willis, I am the innovator in residence here at PennCarey Law. Also founder and director of the Access to Justice Technology Fellows Program. And I will kick it off.
And I'm Claudia Johnson. I'm a lecturer here at Penn. With Miguel, we teach access to justice and technology. And my full-time job is I lead one of the largest, maybe the largest national document assembly platform called Help Interactive at ProBonoNet. And I was a public interest lawyer here in Philadelphia. I graduated of the law school, and yeah, I'm just excited about innovation, what we can do, and working together with my colleagues here. We're really excited about our collaboration, so we're gonna share what we did. Hopefully other people can get excited about that too. And here's Amy.
I'm Amy Emerson. I am an assistant dean for library and information services at Villanova, and I also teach a couple of classes on law and technology there.
And I'm Laura Bingham. I'm the executive director of the Institute for Law, Innovation, and Technology at Temple. And I teach there as a practice professor. And my background before I joined Temple in 2021 was as a human rights lawyer. So I practiced largely outside of the US, but I did a lot of work with community-based lawyering and the global legal empowerment movement. Great to be here.
Thank you. So we're going to kick it off with some engagement. Get those phones out. You can either scan or send a text to SJHack to 22333 or pollev.com. So who all here has heard of a hackathon or participated in a hackathon before?
I've heard.
Okay. How about participation? Okay.
Locked on here. It's not
Oh, do we? Okay, well, let's just do it the old-fashioned.
Yeah, let's go analog.
Raise your hands.
Raise your hands. Okay, participated? Okay. Is this locked too? Using one word, how would you describe a hackathon?
Yeah, you can't get to the next question.
Technology for you.
Problem solving.
Live tech demo, you know?
Okay, well, if there was one word, how would you describe a hackathon? Anyone can.
Experiment.
Experimental.
Good.
Collaborative.
Collaborative.
Hectic, like fast.
Chaotic, yeah.
Interdisciplinary.
Interdisciplinary. You just used our session title. Yeah, no, it's all those things. And, you know, I thought this was a very special occasion to get all of the law schools here in Philadelphia. While Drexel's not here, they were part of the law school that spearheaded the collaboration. I'll kick it off to Amy. You and your colleagues at the Legal Hackers Philadelphia brought this to everyone. So what was the initial conception of the Social Justice Hackathon?
Yeah, so we have a group here in Philly called Legal Hackers PA, which is the Philadelphia chapter of Global Legal Hackers. And I had, just before this all started, I had just joined that group, and I had become one of the organizers of their events, and I was talking to a colleague there. Her name is Insia Jamal, and she works at Morgan Lewis, and we have to mention her because she did a tremendous amount of work on this whole thing. And she was saying that she had been approached by Drexel, saying they were interested in doing a hackathon. You may know Drexel does a hackathon every year, but this was meant to be a little bit different. It was meant to be focused on social justice issues in the law. And so she said to me, are you interested in helping to put this on the Drexel? And I said yes, and I was thinking like of myself in that moment, and she said, well, what about having Villanova involved too? And I was like, oh gosh, I don't know, because our law school had not been very deeply involved with tech forever. It's something that, you know, they're trying to wrap their heads around, and when I took it to my law school, you had to kind of sell it, right? Like they didn't fully understand what is a hackathon, what's it mean. I think when people hear the term hack, there's sometimes negative connotations that come with that, so you have to help them understand what's really going on in those circumstances. And then from there, I mean, she was really the one who said, okay, let's contact all of these people who are heads of departments in these schools who are really involved in this space and push it out and get all the schools involved.
So Claudia, what is the Social Justice Hackathon?
What is the social justice?
Yeah.
It was a collection of folks like us that created a space where you can safely bring a new world and a new vision of what justice, which, you know, I think is it Cornel West that said justice is what love feels like in public. So our conception was, let's create a space where we do it community-based, because we do want people from the community, not just, you know, we did want the law students to be engaged, but we wanted to be community-based, and we wanted the problems to come from the community. And so this hackathon was all about bringing in the community, bringing in the public interest groups, helping define specific problems and challenges, and then bringing in the resources so that people that are in this open, supportive, chaotic, really in the moment for 2 days can idealize a world where technology will bring love and justice. So that's what this hackathon was about. It wasn't academic, and it wasn't, it's like a space where you go and you suspend disbelief, really. You know, you're not in a regular space. And we were very blessed because Callie, A2J author, sent like their lead technology person, Tobias. He came and he was running a challenge himself and mentoring the people, the students. And then we also had another big company, Neurologic, which is a knowledge management company that's in the firms, but also does public interest work and licensing. And we had the lead programmer, Kevin Mulhaney. He was with the students for 2 full days, really working on a problem and a solution. And we had community legal services, Philadelphia legal assistance, and people were in those rooms doing it. So that's what this one was about. I think any social justice hackathon will be about finding solutions or ideating solutions to a social problem that is still open and impacting a lot of people, and using technology to empower and overpower those problems.
Thank you. That was really good. Laura, how did you get involved? And why is it important for law schools to cross-collaborate and get students engaged in the community in this weird way?
Question. So yeah, I mean, I just really want to echo the points that have already been made about how these kinds of events establish a community. Because I had just joined Temple. I did not feel that I had a lot of connections to the legal community, to the legal services community, to other law schools. I got involved also because Insia had reached out to me. You know, she was on the prowl on LinkedIn looking for connections, and we got together, we talked, and I met this amazing group of people who were organizing the hackathon. I think that's one thing that I really want to emphasize is we talk about things as being very chaotic on the day, and that's absolutely true, and it's part of the magic. But it was a process. Like, we really formed relationships. And I think coming in as someone, you know, I think a little bit to your point, Amy, about the concept of hacking and hackathons, you know, there's a lot of different models of this. And sometimes it can be in an echo chamber, and sometimes it can be sort of a monoculture. And it's not pursuing a social justice mission, really. And those were more of my cynical sort of reads on these things. And infusing this particular event and this approach with the access to justice model with social justice in mind, you know, I think it was really important to learn from other folks at other schools who had much more experience and deeper relationships, and there was just an overall sense of generosity. Like, we tend to be in institutional silos as well. And I think there's something about organizing an event like this and surrendering, you know, to the idea that you're going to let go of control. And this idea of like creating an ideal world. I think it was really important to do this across different institutions.
Y'all are making it so easy for me. No, that was great. And let me just give you insight into some of the chaos. So 36 hours in 2 locations. So we kicked off at the Quorum Science Center, which is right up the street, where we had our kickoff night. One of the things you mentioned about the critique with hackathons, right? There is a healthy critique, like what gets built, you know, these things get built over the weekend and everybody, you know, they go to the wasteland to never be mentioned again. I think one of the things that was really profound in this hackathon is that we were very intentional from the get-go in terms of creating a plan of sustainability. In what ways could we leverage the wealth and knowledge of the community, organizations to identify some of the most complex and challenging problems that Philadelphia had. Claudia, you mentioned the technology partners. So again, we had technology partners so that a lot of folks, they didn't have to know how to code or know how to write a programming language. There were even coders there that tried to jump on these low-code, no-code solutions. So over the next 36 hours, the teams went away and hacked away. And that is really questioning the assumptions around those problems. It's really an open area, so you have mentors, you have presentations, you have a lot of food and coffee. But to organize this event was, it really took a community effort. And so just jumping on organizing, what were your thoughts about this process? Amy, I'll kick it off to you.
So I had a lot of trouble with like the lack of structure, right? Like that was the thing that I was really struggling with from day one all the way through the hackathon itself, because I'm like a very structured person. And everyone kept reminding me, like, it's okay. Like, we were trying to let go of structure, right? You were trying to let people think for themselves. Like, you don't need the same kind of structure that you need in your daily work. What was really fun is that we were representing our institutions, but we weren't our institutions. It was us, and it was up to us to get it done. And it was only our group. And if someone, didn't participate or do the task that they had agreed to do, it just wasn't going to happen. There wasn't like any leading figure. There was no one who we were reporting to, so to speak, in the end. It was just us getting something done. And I love the fact that it also transcended, like we said, the academic institutions. We were really, really conscious of making sure that it involved community members. So in some ways, that meant involving community lawyers and people like that, people who were involved in programming and data analysis, but also people off the street who knew what the problems of Philly were and who came and just sat down and were able to share, like, here's what's going on in my community. And we asked them to stay for the entire weekend so that the people building the tools could consult with them and ask them questions and show them, this is what we're doing, does it make sense? Does it actually look like it could actually be a solution for what you've described and what you're going through? And so I think that piece was really important. And one more piece I'll throw in too, when we talk about tech vendors, you know, we've mentioned a couple of them here. When word started to get out that we were doing this, we were actually approached by a couple of tech vendors, and we had some really in-depth conversations about who are we looking to work with? Does their mission fit our mission? And there were actually a few that we turned away because we felt like, yeah, they've got lots of money and they're prominent and they might bring more notoriety to what we're doing, but their mission doesn't really align with us. And so that's something else to keep in mind is what kind of message are you sending to the community depending on who you choose to partner with in a hackathon.
You want to follow up on that? The code of ethics, we developed that as an organizing team to, I think, really try to get ahead of some of those tough questions around sponsors, around creating a safe and engaged environment through, you know, we have a lot of strangers together building, so.
Maybe one thing just back to the legal education theme. I mean, I've been reflecting on this a little bit too. I think, you know, we talk about interdisciplinarity in our title, that's a very important piece, but also, you know, in privacy classes, you know, we'll teach like privacy by design and these, you know, how design of technology integrates with actually abiding by legal regulations. But, you know, I mean, there's only so far you can go in a doctrinal class explaining what that looks like in practice. Or with some of the vendors, you know, how do you make these kinds of ethical decisions really in what feels like on the fly, not in a kind of simulated exercise? And how do you push back on ideas when you don't know as much as the person that you're talking to about the technical side? You know, you're there to use the no-code solution. They understand the entire back end, but you know, you're hearing the community member and you're thinking, no, that you know what, we need to look at another way to do that. So I think that's a really important part for the legal education.
And we took a big risk, which was intentional, that, you know, we had problem areas kind of defined, proposed by the nonprofits practicing in Philadelphia. So we had 3 or 4 that were kind of already self-defined, but we also said, if you have an idea and you want to come and spend time here and focus on it, we'll have substantive experts, we'll have technology experts, you know, all of us are involved in some level of teaching at the law school. I'm constantly looking at security updates, privacy, you know, all the stuff that I do every day in terms of the structure of one of the largest document assembly platforms. We're here, and so you can come with your own project, and that's a huge risk, right? Because who knows what the project will be, you know? But we were just like, we're gonna go with what the community wants to solve and have a space to be supportive and ideate, and we're gonna not be like hard on walking out with things that can go to VC and funding and all that. I mean, that is the next step, right? That's where we want to get to in the next one, have an incubator matchup for the people that, and have them talk to people who have pitched to VC so that maybe some of them can actually start a product that's public interest, but also, you know, entrepreneurial. We didn't get there this year, but you know, it was a risk. We took risks that were calculated, and we had our code of ethics, and we just relied on the expertise that everybody brought, including the partners, the other participants.
I think one of the things that you alluded to was our adaptability during organizing. I've probably been involved in organizing efforts around 8 or 9 different hackathons around the nation, ranging in scope from hacking the school-to-prison pipeline to just the more general legal hackathons. I think by far our intentionality to the details, the ethics, And I think coming into and organizing with no egos, right? That was huge because at a time, our organizing team was over 20 people, right? And so just communication and getting the ball moving forward and being accountable to each other was really. So what came out of the hackathon? That's what you're all probably wondering. So raising the bar. I thought this was really, anyone want to jump on raising the bar? Judges retention analysis tool.
I'm probably not going to get all the details right, but fill in. But yeah, I mean so judges are elected, right?
Yes.
Here, and yet there's no sort of place to go to learn about their records, to learn about their decisions, to really kind of crunch numbers and get a sense of where they stand on important issues to the community. So that was in essence the point of this project was to try and pull that data from various sources and create a pretty easy to use dashboard so that people can go and publicly kind of play around with that data.
Oh yeah.
So
Perfect.
so they were looking at all kinds of judge metrics that are available in public, sentencing length, type of cases that they are assigned to, decisions, anything that could be available in the court records, and then other data from other sources that was available for all the judges, and then just creating an index where people, and a place where people could go, oh, what is this judge, he's in this type of criminal court, what kind of, he's mostly doing felonies. Oh, and he throws the book at people. I mean, that's not what it said, but like the length of sentences is 80% is over maximum. Like over the, he's always going over the threshold or what the average. All across family law, court, we had multiple types of courts, and the idea was to give voters a tool to choose based on actual empirical data, not just propaganda. And
What's the time? Are we over time?
There's a clock. It's 20 more minutes.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 2:45. Okay, so go back really quickly.
And that's still going, by the way.
Yeah.
That team is still meeting regularly and still building on what they built at the hackathon.
Is it accessible?
Yes, yes, it's open source and accessible.
Does the Philadelphia Bar Association know about it?
The Philadelphia for Modern Courts.
Yeah, they know about it?
Yes.
Debbie Gross. Okay,
Yes.
good.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And so another great tool was the NYLC Immigrant Resource Finder that was built to help newly arriving immigrants, mainly Ukrainians and Afghanistans here in Philadelphia, get access to resources using language accessibility, and trying to build a streamlined process in conjunction with other community organizations. Before the hackathon, what we tried to do was create a hybrid format, meaning those who weren't able to attend in person could help and support from anywhere around the country. So I thought that was very helpful to build in additional supports. What were some other, things that came out of the hackathon that really caught your eye?
Another thing about vendors, we did have a couple of vendors who typically, they're not open source and they typically charge for their resources, and Sia did a great job negotiating with them to get them to provide free access, not just for the hackathon, but for our first project that's up there, they have several years of access to, was it Brighter, I think, for the data analysis so that they can continue the project on. So that's another piece I would throw out that I think is really important as an outcome when we talk about the sustainability, making sure that they're still going to be able to continue to use what they were using on that particular day when they built it.
Yeah, the partnerships. Unicorps was another partner. But as the strategic partnerships came about, there was that line that we had to draw for ethics. A catalyst for collaboration, community engagement, and creative problem solving. Something you said, Amy, was that, people walked in from off the street, from in the community, and built with. And I think embedded within the ethics was a certain respect of non-judgment, of trying to identify ways to support. We had a bunch of food. So some people
That
showed
was the
up.
first thing I thought of.
Yeah. The first night we hired, and this was an intentional choice, Down North Pizza, which is founded and hires exclusively from justice-impacted, formerly incarcerated communities. So also try to build in equity within the vending side. Something I want to point out, hackathons aren't a solution to the world's problems. They are a conduit. At best, they can create an environment where magic happens and collaboration happens in a way to get us closer to addressing some issues, social justice issues. At worst, they can reinforce systemic inequalities and hurt the very communities that you're aiming to serve. Does anyone want to address that kind of parallel or paradox?
I mean, I think you said it well. Just to go back to the point that I made a little earlier. I think not solely, but I think the fact that you can run a hackathon that is exclusively, from within a hyper-privileged community with access to lots of skills and lots of resources and the kinds of ideas. It's still a space for creativity and ideation. We might even be using the very same language, to describe what's being done. But I think missing that element of real lived experience and, a community grounding, the things that you're going to come up with are always going to be indirectly discriminatory in some way, shape, or form. And if you have those resources, you probably also have more of a pipeline to the VC funding, and and I think that that's how a lot of harmful technologies have emerged without checks and balances and input, the kind of input we would want.
Like, we made choices. We opened it to anyone off the street. It could be the person that's on the bus stop, sleeps on the bus stop. We didn't care. If they come, they have ideas of what's hurting their fellow people that are houseless, and they are here because they are inspired or they're attracted to this and they want to learn something. So they're experts. And so that was our approach. That's where the humility came in. And if you want to stay and just hang out with us and talk to us, and you don't want to get into the room where they're like figuring out all the complexities of the index or the Immigrant Resource Center, hey, we'll hear you. Because you know what? This is a magic moment that's only going to exist this number of hours. And we have Philadelphia is so blessed in terms of having so many legal brain trusts and universities all across. Yeah, true, we could have done it just for law students, we could have done it just for the law review, we could have gone as elitist that we wanted to be, but that was not our aim. That's not how we're gonna solve the justice problem. It's that I did the keynote, my phrase was, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, thinking that we're gonna fix it. So if we just do it among the elites, the educated, the law schools, and all of that, why do you think we are where we are in terms of justice and inequality? Because we have not reached out to the community. So that was very much our ethos in getting together and taking this risk, coming up with the ethics, working with the vendors, to continue this, doesn't matter the level of resources after, so it was kind of like creating this magic little bubble where we all were together in these buildings, in these rooms, trying to dream of a better thing. So it was kind of very cool. Chaotic, but cool.
Well, you just brought me to my next point. In what ways has, our efforts, continued or bonds built to drive further collaboration? Amy, I'm looking at you.
Oh gosh, well, I'm indebted to Laura because Laura has some new projects coming up that she turned to all of us and said, hey, would you like to join and be a part of this? And that to me was amazing. So you should probably talk more about this because it's really yours, but
No.
the collaborations continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, so we, there is a network called the Public Interest Technology University Network that is sort of a multi-donor trust from philanthropies that supports the development of a lot of different kinds of curriculum and teaching and training to create more of a pipeline of technologists and lawyers who are working with technologists that come at it from a public interest or social justice approach. It's new, and they have challenge grants and things like that. So we applied jointly as a multi-institution consortium to host a few events in the fall, and one of them is going to be actually a training of trainers on hackathons. And I think one of the other outputs that we have is this record. We used Monday.com as one of our organizing tools, and so we have this whole record of a lot of how we collaborated together on the day-to-day, and tools like that to kind of go back. So we really wanted a space to reflect, and I think that's part of this process to put together what were the good things, what could have gone better, how did we even do this, and then have another collaborative training of trainers so we share more about this model. So this panel is kind of a test run, I think, for some of that. Yeah, and additionally we're going to collaborate on some really student-focused career events so that it connects up with where you take your professional development in this emerging space, sort of social justice, access to justice, and technology.
So here is I call it logo soup, but a list of a lot of the partners and collaborators. Again, we had a team of 20 organizers. Some organizers committed to identifying and securing sponsors, host institutions, law school partners, community partners, tech partners to jump speed the process of development, and venue partners, also coffee partners as well. But the combined really helped us put on this event. Penn Law supported, and so we'll get to some of the best practices a little later. But I think it does take a community to pull something like this off, and there's no way that someone should even try to do this alone. Or there's also a ton of resources out there as well.
And I'm gonna say, there was a lot of, once the word got out that this was happening in Philly, etc., a lot of these national vendors, there was a lot of generosity generosity is virtuous giving, because the mission resonated, the institutions, are credible, and we were meeting once or twice a week, I think, at the height of it, interacting on Monday. And I think we had to turn away some people just because we didn't have enough time to process the generosity that they were offering us. We were not expecting to see so much goodwill and in-kind support. And that is a really good thing to know. that it will bring in-kind support to problem solving, whether it becomes a product or not, which is the next step of growing this model. It's invaluable to realize that for everyone that was there, because it was very legit and it was very just supported by everyone.
On that point, what were some of the challenges that we ran into through organizing at the event that you thought, oh, maybe if we did this again, we would do a little different? And I'll throw that out to everyone.
I was really worried about teams. Like, I was worried about people showing up and like, how are they gonna formulate their teams, not knowing other people. Miguel kept saying, don't worry about it, it'll just happen. And it did. I mean, we were, that first night, when we did our kickoff, we had the pizza, and we're all hanging out, that evening, we had the community partners come in, and they sort of did like lightning round talks, saying, here's what the issues are. So just kind of put everything on the table and said, here's your options of issues you could tackle, and you can bring your own, of course. And then it was sort of like setting them, off to the wind, like, okay, we're gonna see you in the morning at Drexel, and we're gonna get started. But at that point, they all just sort of started finding each other. Like they just, by the time they left, teams were formed, they were already starting to work. Some people had already gone off in corners doing their own thing. Like, that was part of it.
And there were a couple, there were a couple, I remember we had, just really touching. A dad and a son had come together, and the dad was a student at Temple. And he was learning coding, and the son was in high school and was interested in coding. So they were there, they didn't have a team, so one of us sat down, said, okay, these are the options, I go with you. And, we knew who the proctors were, the people that were leading the different areas. We'll bring you in, and when you sit down at the table, you're gonna be okay. You don't have to be shy that, you're not in law school or whatever. And it was like there were a couple people that were not finding the right thing, but we walked them through, we figured it out, we talked it out, and then they engaged. And they stayed with the team. They came back the next day.
Yeah. One thing I kind of glanced over, at the culmination of this 36-hour period, the teams will all get back together. They'll present their final solution or what they were able to build during the duration of time. And the judges will evaluate and select winners. For our hackathon, we didn't have cash prizes. I think that was another intentional choice. But some do. That's a consideration.
We did give out some prizes. We ended up doing digital badges so that they had some recognition that they could, put wherever they want to of either being a participant or a winner, whatever the level they had been at. And we had some gift cards too, but yeah, we didn't have like that $5,000 or $10,000 prize. That was amazing. Like, people just showed up.
Yeah.
Because they're like, it's their weekend. And they just showed up to do this for fun.
And we stood up a website for the hackathon.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
We had a wonderful designer that helped us set up this beautiful website that kind of became the coordination, and there was a back-end channel too amongst everyone that was organizing. So we were able to, we need somebody in this room, like the main working rooms. And the last day was really incredible to see the people present, the students. There were teams with students, there were teams without students. It was incredible to see people do the presentations on the level of professionalism and focus on the solution.
Yeah, I learned so much during that session,
Yeah.
during the presentations. It was really incredibly impressive. Even, we talked about the chaos. It was real, but it's affirming to see what a group of mostly strangers can come out with. So I think that is a really important part of these events, is that culmination sort of with the presentation and sharing.
Yeah, and at that time, everyone's sluggish, right? You're at the end of a long weekend, but there was a camaraderie. Leading up to the event, I would say what really gave me anxiety was the promotion, right? we have so many different arms, and we're recruiting in so many different places. I advise for those who are interested in organizing, depending the nature, promote widely, promote often, so yeah, we'll shift into some of the best practices that I think we found. I thought it was helpful to build a diverse and well-rounded organizing team, everyone from civic hacking groups to legal organizations to law students to faculty to professors to staff to a host technology partners.
Well, I think, for me, the fact that we had folks like Nate Fogel, who I've known since I did a spare symposium in 2012, and he was like, I want to be a technology lawyer, can you help me? And I started mentoring him, and now he's the IT person at Philadelphia Legal Assistance, and Nate stayed with us the whole thing. But I think both days. He spent the weekend with us, checking in, providing insight, being just fluid and welcoming all of that was key. That we kind of just had to let go, and people showed up. The people that had been in the 20 people that had been in the conversations once a week, twice a week, once a month. At the end, when the days came, people showed up. And that was really, really, I think, good to be open for that, because people surprise you in terms of generosity.
I know we addressed some of these. I do want to give time for questions, but really quickly share, it's going crazy. Some collaboration tools that were helpful, free low cost Monday.com for collaboration, Eventbrite for registration and promotion, and DevPost was a platform that we use to manage the hackathon, the event where we could showcase the teams, send communications leading up to and during the event, and also showcase the work after and provide a place for to give the teams resources. So envisioning the future of hackathons in legal education, I think, it's, you can hack anything, right? Whether it's translating faculty scholarship, improving the law school experience. I think a lot of workplaces are still in this kind of weird place where we haven't fully adapted to the hybrid nature of work and social justice. Any other areas of hacking come to mind in legal education?
Well, you could hack the career placement process, right? Have the students design how they want to engage with employers and how they want the law schools to represent them, right? Redesign the career law path for Gen Z, right? There's no match right now. It's a serious problem. The articles are already getting written about how firms can't recruit associates because Gen Z doesn't want to go to the culture of. So let's hack the big law culture. What would it take, and how could technology come to bear to evaluate that and to be accountable? Right? The demographics of law schools have completely changed. So how do we hack the demographics of legal careers and employment opportunities for this next generation? These are big questions that maybe solutions could come out of a hackathon, also the hybrid model.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of a related point about the hackathon that we did organize and the organizing process that we've been sort of helping, the in-kind resources, what you were saying, Claudia, about the generosity. I think that is an element of a lot of, sort of this community-based horizontal organizing processes when you're starting a new organization, when you adopt the kind of attitude of humility and a team kind of horizontal flat approach. And I think for law students still today, we have these cultures that seep into career services and how the legal profession is explained in law school that are very hierarchical. And, and are not about pooling resources and are not about going outside of, resource boxes. So I think even students organizing hackathons and having that experience, of kind of reverse engineering how work like this looks is really important for legal education.
So now we're going to open the floor up for questions, comments, give it to us. Anyone here interested in possibly hosting a hackathon at your law school? A couple of folks.
I'm looking over at my boss.
What law schools are you guys at? Like, where are you coming from?
Seton Hall.
Okay. How about you? What law schools?
Georgia State.
Okay.
I'm looking at Michigan State in a number of ways. We did a ChatGPT Access to Justice quasi-hackathon this spring, but we have a relationship. Apple has a new developer academy in Detroit that's designed to, for the people who don't normally get those chances. And we're looking for ways to collaborate with them through the overall university with the idea of saying, with most hackathons that you don't have students who are coders. So what if we could bring in these young coders with a really socially significant project to work on? So still in the thinking stage, but it's an interesting possibility to solve a couple problems at the same time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I was just thinking when you guys were talking about what comes out of it is like, cool, we built an idea, but then it's like, what's the next step? I don't know of other schools, but I know at Georgia State, like campus-wide, there are several different initiatives that a lot of students I don't think know about where they can actually promote ideas and they have different types of incubators. So I really could see how, like at our law school, we could host something like this and then try to encourage the students then to promote it in the next phase to one of those other programs that are already available in our community.
Exactly. Go ahead, Eva.
I had a question about the engagement with community and lived experience experts, because obviously everyone on the organizing team very committed to that central part of the event. But in my experience, at least, elites and maybe lawyers especially don't always buy into the idea of lived experience expertise, or maybe they understand it on an intellectual level, but when it comes to actually engaging with the community in a meaningful way or the two-way flow of information, that can be really challenging for folks who are used to the expert-client model. So I'm curious how you all kind of got buy-in and implementation in such a short time span to kind of make sure that there was respect flowing from the experts in the room towards the lived experience experts. And you can even see how I phrase that, like how built in this is for us, yeah.
Well, I would just say it starts with having lived experience on the team, and then finding ways, I think, while at a legal clinic within a library, just right down the street, there were several people that were looking for legal help at this clinic, and then the next week they were building to solve some of their challenges and problems.
I would say, we were very lucky that the technology proctors we have are very good at the design, eightfold path of design. And the first step of design is empathy, right? So we didn't have to beat people up to be empathetic, right? Because a good designer will start from understanding. And even if the topic was not the topic the community member was talking about, everybody understood that this voice had power. So I think that whoever is proctoring or leading because the groups break up into you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing that. But at the beginning, when the group, is coalescing to make sure that there's somebody there that understands design, because design will always start with empathy. The other thing too is a matter of proportions, right? By and large, we had undergrads, law school students, we had people from technology companies. The community members were a small percentage. They were not overpowering the people with privilege, the people that don't like to be challenged because they become fragile. So it was a matter of proportions, right? Now, had it been the other way, and we had moments of white fragility, and I don't want to insult anyone, but like defensiveness and denial and minimizing, one of us would have had to step up. But luckily, and these are the things that you have to be ready to do. But luckily, I don't know, it didn't happen. And I think it was just from the composition of who was in those rooms. And this had never happened. So, people wanted to do the best, we had never gotten together. All the law schools had never gotten together for anything like this. And so I think that everybody was just coming in with open mind and positive mental attitude, and we just wanted everybody to get something out of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned promotion, but I think, it was also outreach. We worked within our networks, and it was all guided by these values that were set, the ethos that was set from the beginning, and I think that carries through, and you can't draw a linear line, from one all the way down to the end, and we got such a great result and sort of spirit in the room during those 36 hours. But I do think it's just back to the process. We were organizing this for 9 months or so, and talking about it.
Yeah. But just as a caveat, a hackathon doesn't have to be 36 hours. It can be 8 hours. It can be, half a day or 3 hours. So depending on the nature and the scope and the problem that you're addressing, a lot of those factors will vary.
And we didn't have overnight, you know what I mean? Because we were in buildings, there's security in the buildings. And so the building shut down, and when the building shut down, we sent everybody home because there were things that we didn't want to have to deal with, right? And so the teams showed up super early, and on both days, on Sunday too. But I don't remember if we were leaving at 10. I think that we were getting kicked out at 10, and getting kicked out was good.
Yeah.
Because then everybody had to go home. We didn't have to deal with the people wanting to stay and sleep, and then having to provide security for that or any extra liability. So that was that we were kind of, we wanted to have more time, give them more time, but at the end that was kind of like a blessing.
Are you gonna do 2.0?
We're gonna train trainers. Do we wanna pitch, when is that gonna be? Train the trainers event?
I think I don't think we have a
In the
date.
fall?
In the fall, this fall, October or November.
We're gonna focus on going through all the materials and putting together what we think is the basic package to do this, replicate this with other universities and other community organizations. So that's what we're working on now, and who knows?
I think 2.0 is in the works
Yeah.
also for, probably not 1 year anniversary, but
18
coming
months.
up. And just like this, this sort of people coming out of the woodwork. There's a new director at the Drexel Center that was so instrumental and who has already kind of come into the group and is very excited about organizing the next hackathon.
I think we are.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I just want to say really quickly that DevPost resource that lists just open hackathons, both in person and virtual. There's also a website called Major League Hacking. They probably have hackathons every 2 hours around the world. You know, most major universities will have hackathons around. And the prizes can range anywhere from pizza to 50K, so depending on the types of issues. And so thank you all for being engaging. And thank you. Stick around if you have any questions.